Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we talk about why the reputation and relevance of India's largest science gathering has declined over the years. We also talk about a bomb scare near the residence of CM Bhagwant Mann. But first, we talk about the city of Haldwani in Uttarakhand. On the 1st of January, over 4,000 families living near the railway station in Haldwani were served eviction notices. The land on which these families live is owned by the railways, which claims that it has been illegally encroached upon. The residents have strongly opposed the eviction notice, and many claim that they have been staying there for decades. Among them, there are those who also say that they have bought their pieces of land in a government auction. Right now, the residents have less than a week to evacuate before their homes and colonies are demolished. In this segment, Indian Express's Avaneesh Mishra joins us on a call from Haldwani to tell us more about the matter. Avaneesh, could you begin by telling us what the railways is claiming here and when did this matter begin?
According to the railways, the matter initially started in 2013 when a local person, he filed a PIL. And the PIL was mostly about illegal mining in the area because that time there was a bridge collapse and the matter came out in the media and people were talking about it. So he filed a PIL talking about the illegal mining in the case. But later the court kind of expanded the PIL and there was a question that who are these people and why the illegal mining is happening there. So after that, 2016, the High Court gave an order to the railways and district administration to clear these lands, to clear all the illegal encroachments. After that, these people went to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court directed the High Court to hear them out also. So after hearing the parties involved in this, last month on 20th December, the High Court once again directed the district administration and the railways to clear these lands after 1 month's notice. So on the 1st of January, a notice was served through local newspapers and regular announcements is being made in the area through district administration that people need to clear the land and leave their houses and just vacate the place within the next 7 days. And if not, then action would be taken, which would include demolition of the land and the cost of demolition would be charged or taken from the encroachers.
And you spoke to some of the people who live there and they are claiming that they have been living on this land for decades now. So could you talk a bit more about what these people have been telling you?
So basically, the areas which are under this the said land includes Gafur Basti, Dholak Basti, and Indira Nagar, and all this falls under the area of Banbhulpura. And obviously, the locals are claiming that they have been living for a very long time. The Gafur and Dholak Basti is basically slums. So these people do not have any exact claim on the land, but they are claiming they have been living for a very long time. And earlier in 2007, these two bastis were kind of evicted. But these people came back after a few months and re-established their shanties and everything. But in Indira Nagar and other parts, there are pakka houses. Some of these houses have been there for several decades, 60 to 70 years. And around 10 to 12 people are claiming that their houses were purchased after partition. Like when some people left the country and left their houses there, these houses were auctioned to them by the government and through auction they purchased these houses. So yeah, they have been living for generations, for several decades. And now obviously there is some terror and they are under a lot of immense pressure. They do not know what's going to happen next.
ये रेलवे की जो दावेदारी है बिल्कुल नाजायज है, बिल्कुल गलत है और हमारे साथ अन्याय हुआ है. हमें नहीं सुना गया क्योंकि हमारे पास में कस्टोडियन के ये पेपर हैं, ये वो पेपर हैं जो बंटवारे के वक्त यहाँ से लोग पाकिस्तान चले गए थे और उन्होंने वहां अपने दावे ठोके थे. उसके बाद में ये गवर्नमेंट ने ऑक्शन किए थे. इसको हमने सेशन में दाखिल करा था लेकिन सेशन में सुनवाई चल रही थी इससे पहले के हाई कोर्ट से जजमेंट आ गया.
And this person we just heard from was Waris Shah Khan, who is one of the residents and based on the eviction notice could lose his home very soon. But Avaneesh, now what does the railways have to say in response to these claims that people are making?
So the railways is claiming that they do have some old maps, a notification of 1959 and revenue records from 1971 and results of a 2017 survey which was conducted by joint teams of railway and the district administration. And this is what basically they are presenting as a proof of ownership. But like a lot of people are also claiming that most of the land the railways is claiming belong to Nazul, which is a government land. So obviously there is some dispute, and the court will have the responsibility to clear that out.
Right, but also if the railways have the ownership of this land, have they said anything about why people were allowed to settle there in the first place?
Yeah, I talked to the ADRM of Izzat Nagar area under which this particular railway station falls, and I asked him how come like a lot of government hospitals and schools and houses were allowed to build on this land which the railway is claiming to be theirs. And he said that this thing in like encroachment along railway lines is a nationwide phenomena. And I mean, he did not have much to say other than that the railway regrets that this happened over the years. And yeah, that's all they have to say, that they regret this. And this is something which happens all over the country.
Okay, and now that the eviction notice has been served, what kind of concerns are people raising? What all are they worried about?
Yeah, people in Gafoor Basti and the Dholak Basti, which are just basically slums, they're worried that where will they go, because it's winter time and they have children, they have like ladies in the houses. So definitely they do not have any place to stay, and that is their major concern. And if we talk about the houses in Indranagar area, so yeah, like people are claiming that they spend their like life saving in building these houses. People were claiming that around 40% of the houses are two-story buildings, around 10% of the houses are three-story buildings. Like if we talk about the value of these houses, some of the houses are for 50 to 60 lakhs, some of the houses are even for 1 crore. So people are concerned that all of their life saving will be gone. They will not have any place to stay, because on one side there are other bastis and on the other side is Gola River. So they won't have any place to stay.
अगर कल कोई अतिक्रमण हटाया जाता है, अतिक्रमण जिसको कह रहे हैं हटाया जाता है, तो आज हमारे पास में साहब इस तरफ घनी बस आबादी है, हमारे पास सड़क पे सामान डालने के लिए एक जगह नहीं है. इधर गौला नदी है, वहां फ्लड आ गया तो गौला नदी में हम वैसे ही बह जाएंगे, तो हम तो हर तरफ से मारे गए. आज हमारे जब
And if the administration will go further with this thing, heavy police deployment will be there. So they will have to figure out where will they go after this.
And has the local administration taken any steps or talked about resettling people if they do end up getting evicted?
As of now, I haven't heard anything about the houses, but yeah, administration is talking about the schools falling under the premises. I've talked to the DM and he identified that there are at least 11 accredited private schools, and they are planning to shift those schools to other schools within like a 1 or 2 kilometer area. And same thing will happen to the government schools also. But obviously, the schools also have some concerns at how they are going to manage being shifted to any other school building. They'll have to run classes in different shifts. They'll have to kind of transfer the entire infrastructure over there, the computers, the seats, the chair, furniture, and everything. So there's going to be a lot of problems. But as of now, what the district administration is telling me is that they have a plan to shift the schools falling under the area.
Right, and even then, teachers in the area are still worried about the students. You spoke to this teacher, Sabah Khan, from the Abdul Salam Junior High School, and she said that this will basically destroy the children's future.
अगर ये अतिक्रमण चले गया तो बच्चों का भविष्य बिल्कुल खराब हो जाएगा. अब ये कल की हमारी राजनीति है, कल का भविष्य है. इसमें से कोई डॉक्टर बनेगा, कोई इंजीनियर बनेगा, कोई आईएएस बनेगा, यहाँ तक कि कोई प्रधानमंत्री भी बन सकता है, कोई सीएम भी बनेगा. ये हमारे कल का देश का भविष्य, इनका भविष्य बिगड़ जाएगा. तो ये लोग कहाँ जाएंगे?
Also, now the Supreme Court will hear an appeal today challenging the demolition which is scheduled for Sunday. But Avneesh, have the residents found any support yet from local leaders or politicians?
Yeah, for the last around 7 to 10 days, people have been protesting in the area, mostly women. And after the afternoon namaz, they sit on the. So this road is called line number 17, which is basically Banbulpura area, Indranagar. So they sit there, and it's mostly silent protest. On some occasions, there was a candle march also. And only today they got some political support when some politicians from the Aam Aadmi Party came there and talked to them. But the local Congress MLA, Sumit Hirdesh, he has been continuously fighting for these people because his mother Indra Hitesh was the one, like in the past, who has been supporting these people, and she was the one who helped supported Kapoor and Dholak Basti. So yeah, I mean, there is not much political support as of now, other than some local leaders from the Congress party. But yeah, there has been a protest going on, which is mostly peaceful as of now.
And next we talk about the Indian Science Congress. Every year, the Indian Prime Minister visits the Indian Science Congress, which is an annual event that sees the largest gathering of scientists and students in the country. The tradition goes back many years. In fact, it is usually the Prime Minister's first public engagement in the new year. And this year as well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated its 108th event. In his speech, he talked about the need to harness scientific knowledge for societal needs and making India self-reliant.
भारत की आवश्यकता की पूर्ति के लिए भारत में साइंस का विकास, ये हमारे वैज्ञानिक समुदाय की मूल प्रेरणा होनी चाहिए। भारत में साइंस भारत को आत्मनिर्भर बनाने वाली होनी चाहिए।
Now, even though the event is attended by a lot of people within the scientific community, its reputation and relevance has been going down over the years. And some even say that it should be shut down altogether. In this segment, Indian Express's Amitabh Sinha, who writes on science for the paper, joins us to talk about why that is the case. Amitabh, could you begin by talking about the origins of the Indian Science Congress?
Right. So it actually started more than 100 years ago with, for very honorable reasons, to promote science, to showcase Indian achievements in science, also to get people interested in science, to get the conversations around science going in amongst general public. Also, for the first few decades, it actually served as a very, very good platform to showcase Indian science. And some of the biggest scientific personalities in India, all the big names, starting from Sir C.V. Raman, Meghnad Saha, you have people like J.C. Bose, S.N. Bose, all sorts of people, Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar, everyone that you can remember in the 30s and 40s, all the major scientific personalities in India, all of them have been a part of Science Congress. And that tradition has continued throughout, even till 60s, 70s, 80s. All these stalwarts have been associated with the Science Congress. They have served as presidents, or they have participated, they have delivered talks. So it used to be a very, very vibrant space, a fairly important forum for scientists, and an important event on their annual calendar.
Now, you are saying used to, and the use of past tense here leads to the question that what is the reason that over time its significance, its reputation has declined to the point that some say that it should be shut down altogether?
Yes. So, like everything, degeneration takes place in any sort of institution, and that's what probably has happened with the Holiday Science Congress as well. It's not something new. It hasn't happened now. It hasn't even happened a couple of years or 5 years later. It's been going on for a pretty long time. People have written articles in late 1990s saying this should be disbanded. It doesn't serve any purpose any longer. There have been scientists who have called this a mela, a jamboree, a circus. All sorts of descriptions have been used for this annual gathering.
Right, and the reason that people have called it a circus, a jamboree, is because of the claims that end up being made at the event, right?
So the main problem with the Science Congress, yes, there are lots of controversial claims that are made, but the main problem, and that stems from the fact that Science Congress is probably not attracting the top scientific talents in the country anymore. Most of the top scientists now avoid going there. The discussions are not entirely scientific in nature. Also, they are hardly discussing the latest developments in science. Lots of time the discussions are happening about things that happened 20, 30 years earlier, or they are not entirely discussing cutting edge science. And the controversies that you mentioned, That has been coming pretty frequently in the last few years. And that's mainly because in the absence of anything worthwhile getting reported in the media, that anything worthwhile that comes out of that conference, some random people making random claims, they generate a lot of attention. So we have had in the past, some people saying aeroplanes were flying in India in the Vedic age, or things like a university vice chancellor, by the way, one of these last science congresses, he claimed that stem cell research was going on in India thousands of years ago. Otherwise, how do you, account for the fact that Gandhari gave birth to 100 children? And that's the reason why lots of scientists do not like to go to science congress. It doesn't add anything to their career, to their scientific discourse.
So, Amitabh, the science congress is funded by the government. But are the speakers and the panelists, are they chosen by the government as well?
So the body that organizes this event, the Indian Science Congress Association, is an independent body that functions under the Department of Science and Technology. It's a registered society, but it functions under the Department of Science and Technology. Its permanent staff are salaried staff. They draw their salary from the government. So, the government does have a connection. It has an association with the event. Just that the people who are speaking, the people who become panelists, the people who are speakers, the awards that are given, the papers that are presented, the selection of those, that the government is not involved in at all. So that the organizing committee or whoever is responsible for within the organizing committee, they decide, and it's generally follows some procedures, but obviously very good filters are not applied. And that's why a lot of people now have been advocating. And again, this is not new. As I said, this has been going on for a couple of decades at least, that either this needs to reform itself, or maybe, you need to do something more drastic with it, completely disband it. But that hasn't happened, of course.
Okay, so one idea is to shut it down altogether. But in the state that it exists right now, what do you think it would take to reform it?
So, the general thing is that you need to apply certain quality checks. You just cannot have a free for all and all sorts of people coming in and speaking on whatever they like. So there has to be some amount of quality check on the subjects that are discussed, on the people who are allowed to speak, on the kind of papers that you accept for presentation. So those things are fairly easy and straightforward to be done. And actually, the Indian Science Congress Association, its membership is open not just for scientists, but what the clause apparently says is anyone who has an interest in science can become a member, which means practically anyone can become a member. And that, so when you open up for everyone, you do open up the opportunity to let some clowns get in as well.
Right, and until major changes happen, the event, the way it is, must hurt India's global scientific image, right?
It does. And that's the biggest problem, because it has a glorious past, because some of the very famous names of Indian science have been associated with it in the past. It is presented internationally as well as the biggest forum for Indian science, the forum that represents, it's always seen as a representative of Indian science, which unfortunately today it probably is not. It does not represent the Indian science these days. But because of its past, it often is seen as a representative of Indian science. And that is the reason why a lot of people think either it needs to be redesigned completely or needs to be stopped. Now, obviously, as I said, governments have been mulling over it. There has been serious thought within the government how to deal with the situation, how to change the situation. But again, because of its past association, and because of its past glory, no government wants to completely shut it down because for the fear of they being dubbed as anti-science. This is seen as a forum where scientists come, students come, they interact with the scientists. At least in the public perception, that is the kind of image that it has. So the messaging, of course, is not good. And that's why the governments don't probably want to go the whole hog. But everyone agrees that it requires a very serious reform.
And in the end, we talk about a bomb scare. Earlier this week on Monday, news broke out that apparently a bomb had been found at the official residence of Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann in Chandigarh.
There's news coming in that a live bomb had been found near the residence of none other than the Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann.
Bomb has been found outside the Chief Minister's house.
CM House के पास बम बरामद किया गया है.
जो बम की तस्वीर है वो हम आपको दिखा रहे हैं. और बम
But later, it turned out that this was not the case. What was found was actually an unexploded artillery shell. In this segment, Indian Express's Aman Singh Chhina joins us to talk about what an artillery shell is, how dangerous it can be, and how it ended up near the Chief Minister's residence. Manaman, could you begin by telling us what we know about the incident so far?
Well, what the information which is available with us till now is that there is a helipad in front of the official residence of the Punjab Chief Minister. And this helipad is not very far off. It's very close. In fact, the Haryana Chief Minister's residence is also just 300 to 400 meters away. So there are a clump of trees near the helipad. And this artillery shell, which is being termed as bomb in several news reports also, but in fact it is an artillery shell. This was found lying in those grove of trees on the ground in the grass by somebody. The police has not yet revealed who found this lying on the ground. But this was very close to the helipad, which is used by the VVIPs in Chandigarh, including the Punjab Chief Minister, the Haryana Chief Minister, and the governors of Punjab and Haryana. So this is a very high security zone where this artillery shell, which is essentially a projectile, which was found lying on the ground. So this is what we know.
Right, and could you tell us what exactly an artillery shell is?
Yes, when we say artillery shell, it means artillery ammunition which is fired from an artillery gun. So these are big guns which we normally see on television. You know, they were also seen while in firing in the Kargil war. People are very familiar with them. These are huge weapons. They have wheels on them. Some of them also have tracks. So these are huge guns which are used to fire these projectiles, which are known as artillery shells. So these shells cannot be used on their own unless they are fired from an artillery gun. But of course, if somebody were to play mischief, they could use it as an improvised explosive device by using some circuit and some battery with it. But in this instance, this is not so. Only this small shell was recovered from the grounds, and there were no wires or connectors or anything of that sort with it.
And some reports about this also mentioned the term unexploded ordnance or UXO. Could you explain what that term means?
Yes, unexploded ordnance or UXO. This term refers to all military ammunition which has been primed and fired but which has not exploded. So for example, this artillery shell, if it had been fired from a gun and it landed near the target but it did not explode, it would be called an unexploded ordnance. So what happens is that in the firing ranges of the army, such shells are used for practice firing, and there are many instances when hundreds and thousands of shells are fired. There are a few which do not explode and they are lying on the ground. So this ammunition which is fired but has not exploded is known as an UXO or unexploded ordnance.
Okay, so unexploded. Does that mean it can explode in the future?
Absolutely. The thumb rule of finding such unexploded ordnance on the ground or ammunition on the ground is that these should not be touched. These may explode on contact or on being moved. And so therefore the nearest police or civilian authorities should be informed, who in turn will inform the army authorities, who will then come with ammunition experts and either diffuse the ammunition which is lying there or blast it on the site itself or take it away to be dealt with in a safer environment.
Okay, so even though they're not connected to any wires and are unexploded, they can still be dangerous.
Absolutely, they are dangerous till it has been certified that they are total duds and there is something wrong with them and they cannot explode. But till then, they have to be considered dangerous.
Okay, and Manaman, do we know how this artillery shell could have reached near the CM's house, which is supposed to be this high security VIP area?
Well, yes, that is a matter of investigation which is being looked into by the Chandigarh police because as you have rightly pointed out, this is a very high security area. Normal citizens are unable to access this area because there is police barricade all around. So therefore, it is a matter of grave concern that someone was able to breach this security and leave this unexploded ammunition on the ground near the helipad, which is used by chief ministers of 2 states and governors of 2 states. The Chandigarh police is looking into this aspect, but they have not yet shared their findings. In fact, the army, which has conducted an investigation on the kind of ammunition which was found, this artillery shell, they will be submitting a report today to the Chandigarh administration. But the Chandigarh police investigation into this is likely to continue for several more days.
Okay, so we will have to wait for the finding. But right now, what is the biggest takeaway from this incident?
The takeaway is that, such ammunition is still available with people because it is widely known that this unexploded ammunition which lies on the ammunition ranges or the firing ranges of the army, they are picked up by people living nearby and sold to scrap dealers who then extract some metal from them, which is sold at a high price, metal like copper. This has been going on for quite some time. And normally what happens is that while extracting metal from these ammunition, the blasts also take place, and there have been instances where scrap dealers or people collecting the scrap have lost their lives. But the fact that this has found its way into a VVIP area, a high security area, that is the key takeaway, because till now we've had very few instances of such ammunition being found in a high security area.
And you mentioned that sometimes these shells can find their ways into the hands of scrap dealers, even though this can be a dangerous affair. So what exactly motivates people to do this?
Well, the answer is quite simple: to earn a quick buck. Because as I said, the metal extracted from it goes for quite a heavy price. And mind you, all these practice ranges, all these firing ranges are out of bounds for the civilians who live nearby. They are not supposed to enter this firing range because precisely for the reason that unexploded ammunition could be lying there and they could harm themselves. And also, while the firing is going on, that you simply can't saunter around into a firing range. However, people disregard these directions, and because they feel that they can make a quick buck out of it, they go there, pick this up, and then sell it to scrap dealers who are equally unscrupulous, and they buy it from them.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.